If you're wanting to learn how to do your own bike maintenance, one of the very first things you're going to need to learn how to do is how to wrap your own handlebars. Now, I first learned how to do this all the way back in high school in the year 2005.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it!
Okay, fine, well, we'll just get started. But before we get started, what you're going to need is some electrical tape, scissors or a penknife, and of course, well, yeah, bar tape. Once you open up your box bar tape, you're going to find some bar ends for plugging up the holes, your bar tape, some little strips for under the hoods, and some finishing strips. Now, we probably won't even really be using either of those, and I'm going to show you why. We're going to take one of these finishing strips, and before we even get started, I like to pull one of these as hard as possible. What this is going to tell me is how stretchy the tape actually is, and kind of how much I can get away with before it breaks. Now we're going to take those finishing strips, and if you look at the back of them here, you'll notice that they are perforated. I've seen this on almost every single brand of bar tape I have ever used, so they should be like this. Go ahead and just take that back off and then stick them right on the frame. This is going to come in handy when we are finishing up the bars later and don't really have an extra hand free. Go ahead and also do this with 2 strips of electrical tape, because this is going to be what we actually finish our bar wrap with. Those little finishing strips are just going to be for looks if you want to use them. Before we wrap, pull back the hood of the side you are about to wrap. You don't want to leave your hoods pulled back for too long, because this material can stretch very easily and then cause a crease in your hood. Now, always remember to start from the inside of the bar, depending on which side you are wrapping. I like to do one full even turn around the bar first before I really get started, leaving the same amount of material hanging over the edge. This creates a little knob at the end that I like to call the Dob knob.
Until a better name comes along?
What it does is I just like having that little knob down there, so when I grab at the bars, I can kind of gauge my hand position without having to look down. This is an optional step. You don't have to do this, but I do find it really, really handy. Once you've done your one full turn, we're just going to simply start working our way up the bar, checking as we go along. Try to follow the edge of the bar tape that you had previously wrapped, or if there is any residue from a previous wrap or any sort of pattern on the bar, you can also use that. After a few reps, I like to check how tight everything is and see if it's to my liking. Once that's complete, just keep working your way up the bar towards the hood. Now, once we get to the hood, you're going to have a choice here. I like to stop at this point when you can see a little bit under. Now, logic tells you that you would go this way and just keep wrapping, but that's not what we're going to do. So instead, go ahead and leave that little spot blank for now, and we're going to go up and over the hood on the top side. Once you've gone over the hood, we're going to come around the back side of the drop right there, and now we're going to finish off that little section. This is why I don't need to use those little extra strips there, because when you do this method, it fills in that space naturally. Once you've covered that blank spot, go ahead and pull it around and go over the outside of the bars. We're going to continue wrapping this way all the way to the center, going over the back side over the bar. When you get to the bend, you're going to notice that you're going to have to cut in a little bit more on the inside than you are on the outside. This is pretty obvious because you're, well, going around a bend. Just do those wraps and then continue going towards the center of the bar. You're going to start to notice that your wrap is going to be kind of pointing towards the center of where the stem is, and that's what we want to see. Just continue wrapping that way, and I'll explain kind of what that's for a little bit later on. Now, if your bars are like these ones and they do have kind of a ridge here, it's kind of your gauge to tell you when you're done wrapping. Once you get to that point on the inside of the tape and you're just touching the top part of that ridge, this is where we're going to stop actually wrapping and make the cut. We're going to cut it right here at the bar because we don't need to go any further right there. So that's going to be our end point, and cut on a diagonal bias from the outside. Once you've got your bias, just discard your extra tape and continue wrapping that little bit around. Because we cut it on a bias like this, you're going to notice that it's going to give us a straight flat line all around at our stopping point. Then just simply grab one of your pieces of electrical tape and secure the wrap in place. Now, I like to try to always go the same direction that the wrap was going, because this just really makes it easier to affix on there, but you can go the other way, it doesn't matter, as long as you are touching the bar and the tape so it holds it secure. Simply pull that nice and tight, and if you want, you can actually be done right here. You don't have to use the finishing strips if you don't want to, but just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to show you. Now, the reason you don't want to use these to actually fix the bar tape in place is these things can stretch a whole lot, and they also don't tend to really ever stick on anything very well regardless of the brand. These ones I put on even started falling off about 2 days later, so I'm just going back to the bare electrical tape, and that's perfectly fine if you want to stop at the electrical tape. But make sure it's nice and tight and neaty, and you are good to go. The final thing we're going to do before moving on is plug up the bar end, and to do this, you will kind of need to hold a little bit in place with the bar end itself, and then tuck the remainder under. But this is also a lot easier when you do it the method that I use, because you will have that little bit extra there that is all even the whole way around. If you do it on a diagonal bias the whole way, you'll have a lot of extra material that can be tough to tuck in. Now to start on the left side, and again, we are starting from that same inside point. And I want to show you real quick, if you don't want to do it my exact method, this is how you kind of start the other way. You just start in the same place, but at an angle, and then just begin wrapping from there. This will give you a nice clean line all the way through, so if you prefer doing it that way, perfectly fine, you can totally do that. I'm going to start over though and do my method, but first don't forget to pull that hood back like I almost did. And then we're going to start from the inside, creating nice, even one wrap around. Continue on up, and we'll do the same process as before on the left hood. Once you get your nice up and over complete, we're going to continue to wrap towards the center of the bars and to the stem. And on this angle, we'll be able to see kind of that bias I was telling you about of which direction you're wanting the tape to run. Once you've reached your stopping point, look again for that little ridge, and we're going to be cutting the tape right to that ridge. So again, on a bias to the ridge, and that's going to give us that nice finish line that's going to be straight all the way around. After several minutes of fighting with what direction to hold your scissors to cut at, make your cut and finish the wrap. Now again, I like to follow the direction that the wrap was going, but just kind of show you that you can do it either way as long as you are touching both the tape and the bars. Here it is going the opposite direction, and really it doesn't make much of a difference, so kind of just go whichever way you like. Attach your finishing strip if you choose so, and realize halfway through that your peppers are not facing the same direction as your other ones, and don't really care anyway, and finish it up. Go ahead and fold your hood back down and check to make sure that you do have full coverage. If you do the method correctly, you should have no problems at all. Put in that final bar and plug, and we are almost done. Now, if you'll notice, if you look close, there is just a little bit that didn't quite get under there. So simply take a flat blade off a multi-tool or even a standalone and just kind of tuck it back under there gently. Now, be very careful because you could rip the tape, so you want to do this very, very delicately, but after a little practice, it's not really hard at all. Now, as I was saying with the direction of the tape run, the reason we do it this way is because if you notice your fingers, when they wrap around the bar, they kind of line up exactly with the lines of the tape. This makes it much, much more comfortable while you're riding and just kind of looks better. Now there is only one thing left to do. Admire your work.